Welcome back to the Mind Body Project. Thanks for taking a little time to join me today. The whole month of January, we're talking about mental health. If you caught the show last week, I talked with my friend Monica, a mental health counselor, about all sorts of things from anxiety to how to treat those, some coping mechanisms, all the different things we talked about mental health versus mental illness, different things. So this week I kind of want to talk about we're still talking about mental health, but I want to kind of talk about the foods that affect our mental health. You know, so many times, the first of the year, as always, we have New Year's resolutions. We go on diets, we find new eating plans, we start exercise plans, all these different New Year resolutions. You know, we always say New Year, New Me. We're going to start on these things. And a lot of those things are, especially in a gym setting, having a Synergy Fitness, we see a big rise in membership, more people coming back to the gym in January and February because of all those New Year's resolutions. All of those, I'm going to get healthier, I'm going to get fitter, I'm getting better physical shape, all those things. A lot of times we see a rise, and I asked Monica in last week's episode about the trend or what they see in the mental health field come the first of the year. And she said through the year there's ebbs and flows, and because I was kind of asking, because I wanted to see, at the beginning of the year, do people have resolutions same as with mental health as they do with physical fitness? And she said, you know, it just kind of depends. It's not really like everybody decides at the first of the year we're going to get mentally healthy. And I think, when we set those New Year's resolutions, we decide that we're going to get healthier and physically look better and work on those things physically. So we see more people coming to the gym. When you go grocery shopping, you see all those healthy foods being more out of stock. They're lower because people are they want to get healthy. They want to eat healthy to lose weight. And we can go into a whole aspect of really losing weight is just a byproduct of being healthy. When you reduce calories, you reduce sugar, you change some of the macronutrients you take in, a byproduct of that is to lose pounds. And we focus on what we're eating and the exercise we're doing based on how we physically want to look. But we neglect that the foods we were taking in affect our mental capacity, affects our brain. And so often, we hear about anti-inflammatory foods and inflammation, and we think about that as just being our muscles, or there's sometimes there's some supplements I take for inflammation, and not too long ago, maybe a few years ago, I had a lot of inflammation. I thought, what is going on? Why is it, I'm not really doing weights that are enough, heavy enough weights that it feels like, man, I should be feeling like this. And I think, what's going on? And so I started looking at my diet and what I was eating, and I was kind of, almost every day I was having red meat of some sort. Red meat causes inflammation, and I was really having, for my body, too much red meat. So it was causing a lot of inflammation. So when I started changing what I was eating, I started going to some fish and chicken and tuna and pork and things like that. And I cut down my red meat to, I might still have it every day, but I'd mix it in with some turkey and stuff like that. So I'd have it maybe half, or might skip a couple days. A lot of times too, then I was having it twice. I'd have it at lunch and at dinner, and that was just too much. And so what I noticed is when I started cutting it back, add in a couple supplements to help with my inflammation started going away. It started, I didn't feel like I had just deadlifted 1,000 pounds. It didn't feel like I had just had a hard run or a hard workout constantly, whether I worked out or not. And so that started making a difference on my physical body. I could tell a difference. And I think we often think that the foods we eat just affect our body. Right now being January, I have a challenge going on with my texting community that is called 30-30-30. So it's 30 grams of sugar less per day, 30 minutes of exercise per day for 30 days straight. So that gets us all the way through January. And the goal is to make people more aware of sugar. And of course, 30 minutes a day, get them moving on a daily basis. But we realize that when we reduce that sugar intake, it makes a difference in how we feel. And we often do that for our physical well-being. I want to feel better. But if it's just like we can't spot reduce with a diet. We can't say I want to lose, I only want to lose 2 inches in my waist, but I don't want to lose any inches anywhere else. That doesn't happen. People come to me as a personal trainer, they say, I want to lose, inches here or there. And I have to tell them, we can do certain things to kind of work on that, but it's not magic. It's not like we're going to say, okay, we're going to lose all of our inches in our thighs and we can't lose them anywhere else. It doesn't work that way. And the same thing is with inflammation. When we reduce inflammation or when we have inflammation, it affects our whole body. And so if it affects our whole body, our brain is part of our body. And so the foods we take in, the inflammation we have, is going to have an effect on our brain. And when it has that effect on our brain, what else does it have an effect on? It has an effect on our mind. And often we think about brain and mind as the same, but the brain is not the same thing as the mind. You almost think as the brain as it's the thing we can see, touch, feel. We've all been in science class and saw the model of the brain. Sometimes it's split apart. We can look in the brain. That's what we can touch and feel and see. But the mind is that abstract part, that part that has our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings. All that happens in our mind. So whatever happening in the metabolic function of our brain affects the mind. So when we have an inflamed body, again, it doesn't just pinpoint, you're just kind of an inflamed elbow. It doesn't work that way. Your whole body is inflamed. It's from head to toe. So it's all part of that. So when we think about the brain and the mind are not the same thing, but whatever's happening metabolically, functioning of the brain affects the mind. So the brain influences the function of the mind. So sometimes by healing with the brain, we can start to deal a little bit more with our mind. We go, what are you talking about? It's just like if we start feeding our body better foods, what happens? We have more energy. We can do more things. We don't get fatigued as quickly. We don't get tired. We can, we may be able to work outside longer. We may be able to play with the grandkids longer. All these different things we are able to do. So the same thing is true as we eat better foods. We take in less sugar. We eat more of an anti-inflammatory diet. Then our brain functions better. Therefore, our mind functions better. So what does that mean? That means if we're eating right and we're doing exercise, that our brain is working better, so we can have better thoughts. I know for me, when around the holidays, sometimes I'm eating not as healthy foods, more sugar-laden foods, because it's we're eating all the holiday food. Maybe the exercise isn't quite as much as it normally would be. I can tend to see my mind not quite as clear. When I know my nutrition is on point, when my exercise is on point, my mind works better. I can have more thoughts. I can have better thoughts. I can have more clarity. I can just understand things quicker and better. And all that goes back to a brain that is less inflamed. It's just working better. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the interviewer and the person that being interviewed was talking about diets and the American diets, and he talked about the SAD diet, and I thought, the SAD diet, what is that? And he said it's the standard American diet. And when we think about the standard American diet, the SAD diet, I thought that is a perfect name, because our diet as a society is not good. It's not good at all. When we go to a restaurant, think of that plate. A lot of times, before we go, Kim and I, my wife, we always talk about we're going to share a meal. Sometimes we do. Usually she'd be more than willing to share. For me, it's like, I'm really hungry. I don't know if I want to share with you today. So we'll end up, getting our own thing. And then when we get halfway through the meal, actually I say, we should have shared. She's always willing to share. It's me that says, I'm a big growing boy. I want to eat. I don't want to share. But when we go out to eat, those meals could easily be shared. And if we go even beyond that and we think what's made up of those foods, what's made up of our diet, it's quick and easy. It's quick and easy if we're talking about going to the grocery store and all those inner aisles are full of processed foods and foods that are labeled to say heart healthy or high protein, sugar free, no sugar, less sugar, all these different things. They're packaged really well to make us feel good about ourselves. But if we really became educated and started looking at what's in those packages, in those meals, we start to realize that they don't have as much protein as we thought. They may be sugar-free, but there's something else in those that we don't need. Maybe it's aspartame, maybe it's other ingredients we don't need. Maybe it's dyes that are in there that we don't need. All these different things that are in there that when we become educated and we start looking at, we realize that they're causing some inflammation. And over the 30 days with clients that I've had, doing the 30 grams or under of sugar, and we just did that. Men are 35 and under, women are 25 and under. But we just went 30, went middle of the road to make it easy. For the case of our challenge, we're not fruits included, so it's any sugar whatsoever. But it is what my community is finding out is that they're taking a lot of sugar, a lot more than they thought they were. Had a client said she had a sugar-free latte. Well, it turns out that sugar-free latte had 16 grams of sugar. It had a couple grams from something that was in it, plus 14 grams of sugar from the milk. So people are finding out just by being more aware that they would say, I'm not eating sweets, I don't take any sugar. But then they start really looking at their sugar intake, and they start reading the label and start becoming educated, becoming informed, and they're starting to realize that, wow, I take in a lot of sugar. And some of them would even probably go as far as to say that at the 30 grams before the challenge, they were probably taking in 2 to maybe 3 times that on a daily basis. Now, your weight may be fine, but start thinking about what that does to your body. What kind of, what that has to do with inflammation, what that has to do not only on your physical body, but also your brain. And, if we just simply swapped out that SAD diet for a whole foods diet, I talked with Monica about mental health and mental illness, and just changing a diet can start to change your mental health. It's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg, and it's kind of the same thing. Which comes first in health, physical or mental? Because they both go hand in hand. Because become physically healthier, we're taking in foods which helps our mind, helps our body. So it kind of goes hand in hand, works together. And so I used to say, well, we'd do maybe physical first and then mental health. Or really, once you get your mental health on track, then you can more easily get into habits and physical and eating right and all that. But they have to go hand in hand, because what we're taking in our bodies, and it's so important that we pay attention to what we're taking in, what we're putting into our bodies, because it's not about just so I look better. It's about overall physical and mental functional health. Can we, when we're less inflamed, we can just move better and we can think better. And so when we look at it that way, the foods we put in, the fuel we put in to our bodies is so important. I always use the example, if you have an expensive car, let's say a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, would you pull up and put the cheapest gas you could find in it that could have some water in it, could not really sure. Would you take that risk and do that to that high dollar machine? No. But we're so quick to do that as a society to our bodies. It's, we can go buy another car. If something happens to it, we can go get a different one. We can have it fixed. But our bodies, it's the only one we get. But yet we treat it with a sad diet. And we treat it with a sad diet and expect it to be at a high performance. It's just like putting in the cruddy gas into the Lamborghini or the Ferrari. We'd put that in there and think it should go 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. It's not going to happen. You're going to punch the gas pedal, and it's going to put, 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 and you think, is this thing even going to move? But yet, we expect that of our bodies. We're going to put junk into it. We're going to put this sad diet into our bodies and expect our mind to be firing on all cylinders, our body firing on cylinders, and for some reason, we are shocked and amazed and surprised when we hit the gas on our mind, on our body, and it doesn't go. It just goes put, 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 put. And we go, I need to see a doctor. I got to get a quick fix. I have to get some medication. I have to get a shot. I have to do this. But what if we take our responsibility onto ourselves? Yes, there are times when we do need to seek medical help and counsel and professional help to see what is going on. But we can go so far with changing our sad diet into a glad diet, a diet of whole foods that make your body and your brain smile. And when your body and brain smile, your mind smiles. It makes a difference. So when we think about inflammation, and we can feel it everywhere, it goes from head to toe. And our brain is impacted by the foods we eat. It's impacted from the foods, from our lifestyle, from the toxins, everything. And our brain is so vital. But yet, we never think about what we're taking in is treating it like junk. It's treating it like that Lamborghini, that Ferrari, and we're just putting junk gas into it. And we never think twice about it. We never think that it's a big deal. That we run through a fast food, or we run into a convenience store and get processed food, or we don't take time to cook our healthy whole food meals. We just don't take that time. But it's going to help us in the long run. If we get into the habit of having those whole foods, making the time and create our lifestyle around our machine, our high dollar, one of a kind, unique machine, and we start taking care of it like that. If you have that high-end car, you're going to put a cover on it, you're going to take care of it, you're going to wash it, you're going to keep it nice and clean on the inside. If somebody gets in there and they want to eat, you go, oh no, that's not going to happen. If somebody makes a mess, you're going to clean that up. You're not going to wear those muddy shoes in my car. But yet we don't clean up our inside of our machine that runs on high octane and will perform the best on high octane. Our brain, to improve mental health, it's some simple changes. It's going from that sad diet, that standard American diet of all the processed foods, to whole foods, to healthy proteins, to healthy fats. Fats aren't bad. We hear about, it used to be a craze of fat-free and, fat-free, but there's other things in that for fat-free. Healthy fats are great. Healthy fats help with brain function, help with mental health. It improves those things. Our brain, its neurotransmitters rely on those proteins or those amino acids from the proteins, and vitamins like A, B, and C and D, and et cetera. Our brain thrives on those, but we don't take the time to take those things in. Some current research has shown that that some of the top boosting nutrients are potassium, vitamin B12, B6, folate, iron, zinc. All those are different nutrients that can be mood boosters, which help our brain, which help our mind. And some of those nutrients are found in like foods like vegetables and fruits and whole grains. Oh, that's a carb. I can't have a carb. The right carbs are good for us. They're meant for us. A whole food is, if you look on the ingredients, there might be, if you get a whole food of rice and you look on the package, what does it say? Rice. If you get vegetables, it's going to say whatever it is. Maybe it's a carrot or green beans. That's what it is. That's the food you're going to take in. A recent study, as I did research for today's show, it talked about participants whose diet consisted of these foods, of those vitamins and whole foods and grains and fruits and vegetables. They had a 35% reduction in risk of major depression. 35% reduction. And a 32% reduction of anxiety. 32%. And Monica, I talked about anxiety last week. We talked about high-functioning anxiety. And some of that I deal with, and I expressed that in last week's podcast. And some of these vitamins and whole grains and vegetables, those are part of my diet. I need to increase my vegetables some. I'm not a big vegetable eater, so that's one thing I do need to increase. I love fruits, whole grains. So part of that helps with my high-functioning anxiety. I know when I'm not eating right, that tends to get a little more out of control. So imagine if just by changing your diet, you can have a reduction by 32% risk of anxiety. 32%, that's huge. Or 35% reduction of major depression, just by changing the foods we take in. On the other hand, the same study showed that a diet higher in sugar and processed foods can increase the risk of depression. So if we can change those things, but again, we have to become educated on the foods we're taking in. Again, we may be thinking, I'm not taking in much sugar. And just like my community that's in this challenge, they start looking and reading labels and go, oh my gosh. For men it's 35 grams of sugar. For women it's 25 grams. We're shooting for 30 grams. We just kind of did in the middle. And they realize that they're taking 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 times that amount of sugar. What kind of impact does that have on our body? What kind of increase in inflammatory things on our body does that have and on our brain? And when our brain's inflamed, what does that affect? That affects the function of our mind. That affects the function of our mental health. It all starts with the foods that we take in. When our body and our mind feels like junk, it's because we're feeding it junk. We often just say, well, I'm not feeling good. I don't, I'm sad, or, I'm kind of depressed, or all these different mental health issues that some that Monica and I talked about the other week, that what if those can start being lessened by the foods we intake? Now, is that easy? No, that's not easy. Does that require starting to change your lifestyle? Yes. We want better health. We want better well-being. We want better physical health. Better physical health, better well-being, better mental health all starts with the foods that we put into our body. The better foods we put into our body, the better results we get physically, the better results we get mentally. Again, because the foods we take in are affecting our physiological things going on in our body. It's also affecting the function of our brain, which when the physiological part of our body is being affected, we can move better, we can do things out in the yard longer, we can be active longer, we can do all those things. Same is true when our function of our brain is working better. We have clearer thoughts, we understand things better, we can have different feelings, things that maybe would snap us and get us upset, wouldn't do that as quickly because our brain is functioning better, therefore our mind is functioning better, which controls our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately those affect our actions. What we think about, our mind comes out in actions. So with the things we do can now change, all because the foods we started taking in to help us physically and mentally. So I encourage you, when we talk about mental health, look at your diet. When I say diet, I don't mean reduction of anything. I just mean your natural diet. What are you taking in on a daily basis? And after looking on that, are there ways that you can improve that on a daily basis? There's tons of diets out there, and I never suggest making a full 180 all at once. I suggest making 1 degree turns, 1 degree. I call them baby steps. You make one little change in your daily habit and get that habit down. I call them non-negotiable habits, and it becomes a non-negotiable habit. You change another habit, another habit, another habit, and you keep turning that 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, and over time you'll get to that 180. But if you just switch to that 180, it's too much. There's too much change, too much going on, and it just can't be sustainable. But by making those 1 degree turns at a time, you're making change, but you never realize how big a change it is until 6 months later and you've made 90 degrees. A year later, you're at 180. So I encourage you to make those small changes. Look at your diet. Look at what you're taking in. Can you add a fruit? Can you take out a processed food? Can you replace it with a whole grain? Can you replace it with a lean protein? Can you reduce your sugar? Your sugar may be 100 grams a day. Can you reduce it down to 75? I'm not saying go straight to 30 or straight to 35 or straight to 25. Can you reduce it down a little bit? Maybe it's 10 grams, and you do that great for a week, and you reduce a little more, you reduce a little more. That's baby steps. That's making progress over time. And that's the goal to change, is making that progress a little at a time over time. So I encourage you to look at your foods to not only change your physical well-being, but also to change your mental health, which gives you a clearer mind, a better mind. And we all know when we have better health, we have just a better life. And better mental health means that it's not perfect health, it's not perfect mental health, but it's mental health. It means the majority is in good working order. And it all starts with what we put into our body shows up in our everyday life. We may think that nobody sees what we put into our body, but they see how we physically look, they see how we physically act, they see how we physically talk, they see how we think. All those things do come out. And so if you want to start changing those types of things, start looking at your diet and change your diet from a SAD diet, a standard American diet, to a GLAD diet. And if you have any questions, I'd love to connect with you. Just go to my website, aarondegler.com. You can find there, you can join my texting community. I send out a daily text to give you food for thought to help encourage, motivate, and inspire. You can also connect with me there on my weekly blog. You can sign up to get that every week. I just share a little bit of about me, a story about me from the week, and what lesson can be learned from that. We can connect if you want to look at some of these things, and I can help you one-on-one coaching or personal training or just a whole sort of different things. Just go to my website, aarondegler.com, and I would love to connect with you. So, hey, we'll see y'all next time. And I was telling my wife Kim every night before I go to bed, it's Bottom of the Ninth, Double A, out.